Hello everyone and welcome back to another Cloudisms video. In this one I have another build guide for you guys, and I know a couple of you are going to be disappointed that the first build I'm making in the Arc season is not an Arc build. I'm currently waiting for a couple things to get patched with the melee, so hopefully that'll get figured out on Bungie's side of things, and then I will promptly make guides for all the classes. So I did want to showcase a new Void build that I'm absolutely loving, and it's literally the only thing I've been using for the past week since the expansion came out. So we're going to be showcasing the Gyr Falcon's Hauberk exotic. I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce it, but this exotic is really cool. So whenever you break invisibility, you're going to get a weapon damage bonus. And this is going to be an empowerment of 33%. So that means it will stack with your debuff. It'll also stack with stuff like elemental wells, stuff like that. So you'll get a nice 33% damage buff. And you'll also have the added bonus of being able to store overshields. So whenever you use a finisher on an enemy, it will allow you to have a reserve overshield. And you'll see that in your little buffs on the bottom left. And whenever you dodge, it will activate your overshield. And it also gives it to your teammates, so whenever they use their class ability, whatever it may be, they'll get an overshield as long as you do the finisher near them. And you'll have that buff for a little while. I think it's like at least 10 seconds. It's pretty long, how long you can stash that overshield. But let's go over the whole build here, starting with the subclass. So I am using the Mobius Quiver. Obviously, use whatever is your preference. However, I'm using this one for DPS. And this is going to be more of a solo build, but it's super easy to adapt this build to be used in group content. I was using this build in the raid, barring I had the teammates invisibility aspect on, and I also had a couple more synergies for my teammates. But what I'm using here is Marksman's Dodge. That's just because I am not using the Trapper's Ambush here. If you do want to use Trapper's Ambush, you're probably going to want to use Gambler's Dodge. This just allows me to reload my weapons, and since I'm not really needing my melee all the time, this is going to be perfect for me. It'll allow me to do some nice DPS as well. I'm using triple jump. That's just preference, of course. And then we've got our snare bomb. This is only purpose here is going to be to weaken enemies. So we're not using it for invis. It's just to apply that 15% weaken debuff. I'm using vortex grenades. You can use whichever you prefer. So for the aspects, like I said earlier, we are not using the Trapper's Ambush here. For two reasons. Number one, we get another fragment slot, and number two is because Stylus Executioner is what I usually run. This is going to be perfect because it'll be proccing your exotic buff without you really need to think about it. So whenever you get a kill with your grenade, or if you kill an enemy that's debuffed by your smoke bomb, you're going to go invis, and then without even thinking about it, you now have 33% more damage on your weapon. You could also do the Stylus Execution if you'd like. However, I don't really use that too much since I don't really melee enemies all that often. We are using Vanishing Step here, which I typically don't run, but in this scenario, it's going to be absolutely perfect to proc our damage buff whenever we want it. It's going to be an on-demand buff. You could do the same thing with Trapper's Ambush, but I find this to be really consistent. The extra fragment slot is really nice, and it pairs really well with the Marksman's Dodge to allow our DPS to kind of pop off a little bit. So, with those being covered, the fragments, the only two that you really should be running are the Echo of Remnants to make your grenade last longer, and the Echo of Undermining to make your grenades weaken. So there you have another source of weaken. This is another 15% source. So you can be weakening with your grenades and your smoke bomb. And of course, if you want, you can use Stylus Executioner. These two are optional, and these are the ones I recommend. So I always run an Echo of Persistence. In the final slot, there's a couple options you could use. So the first one that you might want to use is the Picking Up an Orb gives you Devour from Echo of Starvation. And you could also use the, the Echo of Instability here, where getting grenade kills gives you volatile rounds. And this is typically what I've been running with. However, I don't find it super essential. If you do find your survivability is a bit tough, put on the Devour one. Otherwise, I'll be using in this video the Finisher one. So this is so whenever I finish an enemy, I go invisible. And that's going to pair really nicely with our exotic, or whenever we're invisible, we break out and do damage. And of course, it's also going to encourage us to get finishers to provide our teammates and ourselves overshield on demand. Hopefully I explained that pretty well. I tried to go into detail there a little bit, maybe too much, but that kind of breaks down what I'm going for here. So let's start off with the weapons. Your special and heavy can really vary. I'm using Witherhoard just because that's what I typically run around with. I also found great success with Riptide, just because you can freeze the enemies with Chill Clip and get some extra bonus damage that way. You could use whatever you like, really. I'm using the title here for my energy weapon, and it feels really, really good because we're benefiting off of the classy contender perk, where we're getting class ability energy just from killing enemies. And we also have one for all on this weapon, so we're getting another huge damage buff to our weapon. I luckily got the stats for our roll with Alloy Mag and Reload, so I'm really happy with this. However, just use whatever energy weapon you have. If you have a funnel web, definitely use that. Whatever you prefer, you can really change this. You could even use a Snorri or a hand cannon, whatever you prefer. For the heavy, if you're in group content, you're probably going to be wanting to run a linear fusion. You can now craft the Taipan 4FR for triple tap firing line. This is excellent in the raid. This is just use a void one if you want to run Fonts of Might, which I am. You can also use the new sword, and that would pair really nicely with the Chill Clip perk. So do whatever you like. I also often slot in Deathbringer here. It's really nice with the Marksman's Dodge. Okay, so as far as our armor, on the helmet, I am using Ashes to Assets, so I get a big chunk of super energy whenever I kill enemies with my grenade. I'm using Harmonic Siphon so I can drop orbs whenever I get kills with my Void SMG that I'm using, or my Linear Fusion if it comes to it. I am using Fonts of Might here, however you can absolutely slot this out if you don't like matching your weapons to your subclass. It would easily pair in with High Energy Fire here if you prefer to use that, or Argent Ordnance if you're running rockets. You could then put on, instead of Elemental Time Dilation, you could use Elemental Charge. So, as I was saying on the gloves, we are using Elemental Time Dilation to buff the duration of our Font of Might. It's also going to be buffing our boots, but we'll talk about that here in a moment. I'm using a Grenade Kickstart just to get another chunk of my grenade energy whenever I throw it. On our chest piece, we are using a Linear Fusion Reserve. However, you could use whatever weapon you're using or whatever assortment of resist you'd like. I try not to use seasonal mods in these build guides just because I know a lot of people don't like seeing those in the future, basically. So you could slot in for thermoshock plating if you're on the current season, and whatever is going to be in the current activity, you're going to want to match that element. We are using Reaping Wellmaker on our chest piece so that whenever we dodge, the next kill we get will give us a guaranteed Void Elemental Well upon their death. We are also using Well of Tenacity on our boots. So this is going to pair with our Elemental Time Dilation, giving me 7 seconds, I believe, of resistance, rather than what I think is 5 or 4. We are also running Better Already in Absolution, just so Better Already, when we pick up an orb from our helmet, we will get health regeneration. I do prefer to run Solar Boots because the solar recuperation is much better than Better Already. However, in this situation, this is the best slot to have Well of Tenacity on. We are using Absolution, so whenever we use our, is it our class ability? No, whenever we pick up an orb, we get all abilities. Just some more ability regen. On our cloak, we're using Double Bomber, and this is pretty much essential for my playstyle. I like to spam grenades, so being able to get a huge chunk of grenade energy whenever I dodge near enemies is really important to me. I also have Elemental Ordnance to give myself a guaranteed Elemental Well whenever I throw a grenade and kill an enemy. So I think that's just about it. Again, this is very customizable to your own personal taste, but that's what I recommend. So I will show another variation in the gameplay when we get there of some more mod options you can use and some other fragment choices if you don't want to be using finishers. So stay tuned. I'm going to first show off the gameplay of this build, and then I'll show you a little variation after that. So here we go into the gameplay. Alrighty, so here we are in a legendary campaign mission. The reason I'm using this mission is because I know there's a lot of enemies in here, and I'm playing it on legendary just to show off how strong the build can be in areas where the enemies are a little bit tankier and they do a little bit more damage to me. So I will probably die a couple times in this video, and that's mostly because I'm going to try to play as aggressive as possible. So, you know, probably how you wouldn't play in a mission like this or in harder content, just so it really sticks out how much damage I'm doing and how survivable the build can be. But yeah, I'm gonna die. Let's be real. I'm gonna play really dumb and I'm gonna die, and that's okay. The point of this is really to show off the build and not really to show off perfect gameplay skills out of me, so that's gonna be a-okay if we take a perishment or two here or there. See, we almost took one already. But we've got our damage buffs going with one for all, so let's just jump in here and do a dodge. Now if we get a kill, we get a well. That's from our grenade, not our reaping well maker. But let's just take this guy out. He's got a little bit too much health for my liking. And then, well, I should have done that while I was invisible, but let's skip forward to where a bunch of the ads are, and it'll be a little bit easier to showcase this build. So I'll get back to you guys when I get to the ad encounter. Alrighty, so since I'm using the fragments, that's whenever I finish an enemy, I go invisible. What I'm going to do to try to have a very efficient playstyle here is I'm going to get an enemy weak, and then I'm going to dodge to go invisible and finisher them. That's going to give me the exotic perks reserve overshield. And as you can see, it's also going to volatile this guy. So if I kill him, I get another invisibility and another damage boost. So it's really, really strong. And as you can see, I also got my dodge back just from finishing that guy. And that's another benefit to the perk we're running on our chest piece. So let's get another guy weak and go invisible. Now, if I run in here and finisher him, watch my class ability regen. You can see it shoots up the whole duration, basically, and I have another dodge I can use. So you can really easily chain these. And if I wanted to, I can get another well to make my guns do even more damage. I'll get resist, so I can be extremely tanky. And I could run in here and just shred all of these ads. If I wanted to go invisible again, I could just get a grenade kill super easily. Is anyone weak enough over here to be finishable? Doesn't look like it. Okay. So let's, there's a well right there. I'm not going to worry too much about it. Let's just kill one of these guys so we can get another well, since we just came out of our finisher. Actually, if I could kill this guy, that would be ideal. Or I'll die. Or I will die. Alrighty, so it's going to be a little difficult to properly show off every aspect of this build in one sitting, but I'm going to do my best to talk about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And if you're running the fragment that I'm running, that makes you invisible upon finishers. The playstyle I'm going to try to do here is basically get an enemy weak, dodge to go invisible, and finisher. By doing that, it's going to give me my entire class ability energy back, since the exotic we're using gives us that benefit. It's also going to give us a reserve overshield. Now, that's not really the main priority for this build, in my opinion. It's actually going to be just the passive damage buffs we're going to be getting from breaking invisibility. So that's just a huge cherry on top for what we're doing here. So what I'm going to do, let's just kill the first enemy. Whoops, I wasn't supposed to do that. All good. Actually, he's finishable, so that worked out perfectly. So you get an enemy weak, finisher them, and then as you can see, I got a damage boost from breaking invisibility, and I have my entire dodge back, and I have a reserve overshield, and another damage boost for 5 seconds. So a lot of stuff just happened at once. Let's go a little bit slower to break it down. So this guy's weak. I dodge. I finisher. It's going to spread volatile, and I'm not sure exactly what is causing that, but something's causing everything to go volatile whenever I finish. And if I get a kill, it's going to drop a well, thanks to Reaping Well Maker, and that's because we dodge, just to clarify. And I'm going to go grab that well while I'm invisible, so it's extra safe. And then I get resist, I get a void weapon damage boost, and I'm just going to absolutely shred these enemies, because I'm stacking 3 different damage boosts on my SMG right now. So it's going to make this a lot simpler. So I see a ghost I can finish there, so I'm going to finish him, get the reserve overshield, and watch my class ability just shoot back up. And if we run over here and want it to be extra safe, we just need to do a dodge, get an overshield. Now they shot it off of me instantly, unfortunately, but the process remains consistent. If we finish this guy, we'll go invisible. So if you ever are out of all of your invisibility causing things, you can just easily finish her, go invisible again, get another damage boost. So whenever you want a damage boost, you just finish her an enemy and you have a free 33% damage boost. As you can see with just, all right, well, I killed myself there. But I'll just keep running through even though I died, and showing you guys how many different ways this build can be really, really strong. So what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to switch out the Well of Tenacity here, and I'm going to actually put on something different. We're going to put on Elements Armaments this time, And we're going to take off our invisibility and we're going to put on, where is it? We could put on the Devour one here. That would be a great slot in. Or we can use the Volatile Rounds one. So that's what we're going to do this time. Everything else is going to stay the same. We're just going to be bumping up our weapons a little bit and caring a little bit less about finishers. Now, even though we took off our finishing invisibility aspect, we still have a lot of different sources. I've got my grenade, I've got my dodge, I've got killing enemies that are hit by my smoke bomb. So I've still got a lot of different avenues to go invisible. What I'm going to do right off the start here is I'm just going to go invisible by dodging. That's also going to proc Reaping Wellmaker. So the first enemy I kill is going to give me an elemental well. And I'll just proc one for all in the middle of that. And then as you can see, if we pick this up, we get our nice void damage boost and a little bit of ability regen. And we can just slay out on these enemies. Let's also just proc our volatile rounds by getting a grenade kill there. It's also going to give us another well and make us invisible, so we can just go pick this up while we're safe and proc our volatile rounds. We are just going to shred through these enemies thanks to the volatile rounds. This would be a little bit easier to show off if there was more enemies around, so apologize for picking this avenue. I just don't really know what's better for showcasing stuff like this. So since I want this enemy to die quicker, I'm going to invisible. I'm going to go invisible so I can get the damage boost. Now my Wither Horde is going to be ticking for more just from leaving invisibility. Let's kill this guy and try to proc our reserve overshield. Hopefully he stands in my grenade. Well, he doesn't want to. That's okay. So we're going to kill him and go invisible. Finisher. And now we have our reserve overshield and our dodge back. So since I'm about to die, I'm just going to use that. Let's just tether this dude so he's out of the way. And we can just run around like a madman. We have free damage whenever we want it. We can finisher this guy to get another overshield. There it is. And I can go invisible if I wanted, if I was feeling extra in danger there. And I'm just going to proc one for all. And it looks like we had some volatile rounds going from a grenade kill. But as you can see, even though these guys have a ton of health and arc shields, I'm still shredding through them thanks to the damage boost as well as one for all. Yeah, we're really melting here. We probably shouldn't be. That's what I'm trying to say. Dodge again. Get another damage boost. Still got volatile rounds going, so these guys are all just going to fall over. Got one for all on top of that. So 3 separate boosts to make everything fall over. We can weaken if we really wanted to, or we can just miss that and get sucked in and killed. Either way, I think that's a pretty good showcase of the build. Again, this was in what most people would consider harder content, where enemies are chunkier and I'm taking more damage. So hopefully that was a good demonstration. But that's about it for this. I'm having such a blast using it. Definitely try out the finisher version of this build to see if it's your taste. I find myself using either volatile rounds or devour more often. But yeah, do what you want. And let me know what you guys think about the build in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. Arc builds will be coming out soon, so keep your eye out. All right, peace out, folks.